the space station floated quietly above a shining blue planet. From outside it looked peaceful, but inside it was filled with sound and movement. The main cafeteria of the station was always crowded. People from different worlds came there to eat, talk, and laugh. Machines hummed, trays clattered, and a warm smell of cooked food filled the air. Terran sat near the wide glass wall that showed the stars. He liked that spot because it was calm. He could watch ships come and go while he ate. It was his break hour, and he had a simple meal, bread, soup, and a cup of fruit drink. Around him, other humans talked loudly about their work, new trade routes, and strange alien markets. Then the door opened, and the noise began to change. An alien woman stepped inside. She was tall and thin, her skin shining like silver metal under the cafeteria light. Her long hair had a faint blue tone, and her eyes glowed softly like water reflecting the moon. She wore a plain robe with a symbol from her planet, one that most humans did not recognize. At first, no one said anything. Then the whispers started. "Look at her skin. Does she even eat the same food as us? I heard they drink energy instead of water." The alien woman did not answer. She looked around carefully, trying to understand how the cafeteria worked. She held a small tray but seemed unsure of where to go or what to pick. Every time she moved, more people stared. Some even laughed quietly. Terran watched her from his seat. He saw the way her eyes moved quickly, how she tried to hide her nervous hands. She looked hungry, but too shy to ask for help. He remembered hearing stories about her kind. Survivors from a world destroyed during a great war years ago. They had come to live among humans, but not many trusted them yet. Some said they were too strange, others said they were too proud. But to Terran, she just looked lost and hungry. The alien woman walked to the food counter. The cook, a tired old man, looked at her with confusion. "What will you have?" he asked, trying to be polite but unsure. She looked at the trays of food. Steam rose from them, giving off smells she did not recognize. She pointed slowly at one of the bowls. "That one," she said in a soft voice. The cook nodded, filled a bowl with soup, and gave it to her. She took it carefully, but when she turned around, she saw that almost every table was full of humans watching her. Some smiled in a mocking way. Others whispered again. She hesitated. Terran felt his chest tighten. He could not stand how everyone was treating her. He had seen this before, how people reacted to anyone different. He remembered when humans first made contact with her species, and how news feeds called them cold beings with no emotion. But looking at her now, she did not seem cold. She seemed scared. Tane stood up slowly. His chair made a light sound against the floor, and a few people turned to look. He ignored them and walked across the room. The alien woman froze as he came closer. Her eyes widened slightly. She looked like she might step back, afraid he was coming to mock her too. But Terran stopped at a comfortable distance and spoke softly. "You can sit with me if you like," he said. For a few seconds, she said nothing. Her lips parted slightly as if she was trying to find the right words. "With you?" she asked, her voice uncertain. "Yes," Terran said. "It's better than eating alone." The room had grown quieter now. Many people watched the two of them. Some chuckled under their breath. Others pretended not to care, but still glanced in their direction. The alien woman looked at her bowl, and back at Terran. She saw no laughter in his eyes, no fear either. Only simple kindness. After a short pause, she nodded slowly. "Thank you," she said. Terran smiled a little and guided her to his table near the glass wall. She sat down carefully, as if afraid to break something. She placed her bowl in front of her and looked at the spoon. It was clear she had never used one before. Terran picked up his spoon and began to eat, trying to act normal. He did not want her to feel like a show for others to watch. After a moment, she copied him. She dipped the spoon into the soup and raised it to her mouth. She took a small sip. Her eyes widened in surprise. The warmth of the food made her face soften a little. "It's good," she said quietly. "I'm glad you like it," Terran replied. She nodded and took another spoonful. Around them, the noise in the cafeteria started to rise again. The moment of silence was over. People went back to eating and talking, though some still looked toward the table now and then. Taryn watched the stars outside while he ate. After a few minutes, he said, "I'm Taryn. I work in maintenance on the lower deck." The alien looked at him, her blue eyes glowing faintly. "I am Rila," she said. "I came here last week. My people were given a small section on the outer ring." Taryn smiled. "That's a quiet place. Must feel different from your home." Rila's face changed slightly, the light in her eyes dimming. "Yes," she said. "My home was bright. The air was full of sound and color. Now it is gone." Taryn did not ask more. He could hear the sadness in her voice. He knew loss too, though not in the same way. The silence between them was calm, not uncomfortable. After a while, Rila asked, "Do all humans eat together like this?" Taryn laughed softly. "Yes, mostly. We like to share space and talk while we eat, but sometimes we forget to be kind to new faces." Rila looked down at her bowl. "I saw their faces when I came in. They were laughing." "I saw that too," Taryn said. "But not everyone is like that." She looked at him again and studied his face for a long moment. Then she said, "You are different." Taryn shook his head. "Not really. I just think no one should eat alone when they don't want to." Rila smiled faintly. It was the first time she had smiled since entering the cafeteria. The glow in her eyes grew warmer, softer. She finished her soup slowly, enjoying each spoonful. When they were done, Taryn stood and carried both trays to the return slot. Rila followed him, still silent. On their way out, they passed a group of workers who had laughed earlier. They stopped talking and looked at Rila with mixed expressions. Surprise, guilt, curiosity. Taryn ignored them. He opened the door and let Rila walk through first. The hallway outside was quieter and brighter. The metal floor reflected the light from the ceiling panels. "Thank you," Rila said again. "For letting me sit with you." Taryn shrugged lightly. "It was just lunch." Rila shook her head. "No, it was more than that." Before Taryn could ask what she meant, she gave a small nod and started walking down the corridor toward the outer ring. Her silver robe shimmered under the light. He watched her until she turned the corner and disappeared. When Taryn returned to his work area later, he found a few coworkers waiting. One of them smirked. "You made a friend today, Taryn." Taryn smiled calmly. "Maybe I did." They laughed, but their laughter was uneasy. Something about the scene at lunch had stayed in their minds too. That night, Taryn sat near the same glass wall, looking out at the stars again. The station lights reflected on the window, and he thought about Rila. He wondered what her destroyed world looked like. How it felt to lose everything and still walk into a room full of strangers just for a bowl of soup. That took courage. He realized that kindness could start small, with a seat, a meal, or a few quiet words. Maybe tomorrow he would see her again. Maybe she would come to the cafeteria with less fear in her steps. He hoped so. The stars outside glowed faintly, like distant fires that never went out. Somewhere among them was Rila's lost world, and somewhere close was a new beginning. The next day on the station began like any other. The long metal corridors echoed with footsteps, voices, and the soft hum of machines running deep in the walls. Lights flickered as workers moved between sections. It was a normal morning for everyone, but not for TAR. He kept thinking about the silver-skinned alien woman from the cafeteria, Rila. The memory of her shy smile stayed in his mind. He wondered if she had eaten again, or if she would come back. Taryn worked on the lower deck, checking oxygen filters and repairing broken wires. He was good at his job, quiet and patient. But today his thoughts were far away. When his shift ended, he cleaned his hands, grabbed his tray, went straight to the cafeteria again. The cafeteria was crowded as usual. People laughed and talked while screens on the walls showed the news from nearby colonies. Taryn found his usual seat near the glass wall. He waited quietly, eating slowly, his eyes moving toward the door every few minutes. Then he saw her. Rila stepped in again, just as she had yesterday. This time she looked a little less unsure. Her walk was steady, though her eyes still moved carefully from table to table. The cafeteria grew quieter as some people noticed her again. There were whispers, but fewer than before. Taryn raised his hand a little so she could see him. When Rila noticed him, her face softened. She walked over to the food counter, took another bowl of soup, and came toward his table. "May I sit?" she asked softly. "Of course," Terrence said with a small smile. "You do not have to ask." Rilla sat across from him again, folding her long fingers around the bowl. "It is still strange," she said quietly. "All the eyes that watch." Taryn glanced around. "They will get used to you," he said. "People are slow to change, but they will." Rilla took a small spoonful of soup. "Your food is simple, but kind," she said. Taryn chuckled. "Kind food?" She nodded. "On my world, we believe that the food you share carries your spirit. When people give food without kindness, the taste turns bitter. It explains a lot about some of our cooks." Taryn joked lightly. Rilla tilted her head, confused, then realized he was joking. She smiled again, small but real. Tan was glad to see her relax. He wanted her to feel welcome. "So tell me," he said, "what did your world look like?" Rilla placed her spoon down slowly. For a moment, she said nothing. Her glowing blue eyes looked far away. "It was a world of light," she began softly. "Our cities were built above the ocean. We used crystal towers to collect sunlight. At night, the towers glowed with color. Our people lived in harmony with the waves and wind. We sang to the stars every dawn." Her voice was calm, but there was sadness hidden in it. "Then the war came," she said. "We thought peace would last forever, but we were wrong. When the fighting started, our towers fell. The oceans turned black. The light left the sky." Taryn listened quietly. He did not interrupt her. "Only a few of us escaped," she continued. "Our ships were small. We traveled for years, moving from world to world, asking for help. Some worlds turned us away. Some gave us shelter. Now we are here." She looked down at her soup. "We are alive, but we do not belong anywhere." Taryn took a slow breath. "You belong here as much as anyone else," he said gently. "No one owns the stars. We all live under them together." Rilla looked up. "Do humans believe that?" Taryn smiled faintly. "Some of us do. I try to." She studied his face again. Her glowing eyes reflected the light of the stars behind him. "You are kind, Taryn," she said softly. "Kindness is rare. I just do what I think is right." They continued eating in quiet peace. Around them, the sound of chatter returned, but something had changed. The people nearby were not laughing this time. Some even looked curious instead of cruel. When Rila finished her meal, she looked around the cafeteria again. "Yesterday, I wanted to leave," she said. "Today, I want to come back tomorrow." "That is a good sign," Taryn said. Rila tilted her head again. "You think so?" "I do," he said. "It means you are not afraid anymore." She thought about that for a moment. "I was never afraid of the food," she said quietly. "Only of the people." Taryn smiled gently. "Then we will fix that together." A light blinked on the wall screen near their table, showing the announcement of an upcoming cultural exchange event. It was a small station gathering where people from different planets shared art, food, and stories. Taryn pointed at the screen. "You should come to that," he said. "It would be a good place to share something from your home." Rila's eyes brightened. "Do you think they would listen?" "Yes," Taryn said firmly. "They should." Rila looked thoughtful. "Maybe I will bring a song from my people," she said. "We used to sing to the sun. It reminded us that light always returns." "That sounds beautiful," Taryn said. "I will be there to listen." Her small smile returned. "Then I will sing." They finished their meal and stood up together. When they walked toward the door, people looked again, but this time the stares were softer. One man nodded politely at Rilla. She noticed it and gave a small nod back. Outside in the corridor, the hum of the ship filled the air again. The two walked side by side for a while. "Your people," Taryn asked, "how are they doing here on the station?" "They stay mostly in our living section," Rilla said. "We do not want to disturb humans. Many of us work cleaning or repairing small machines. We are used to silence. Taryn frowned slightly. Silence can be heavy. Maybe you should come out more often. There is more to this place than walls and work. She looked at him with soft curiosity. You speak as if you care for everyone. Maybe not everyone, he said with a small laugh, but I try to care enough to make this place better. They reached a turn in the hallway. Rilla stopped and turned to face him. Taryn, may I ask you something? Of course. Why did you help me yesterday? She asked quietly. No one else did. You could have ignored me. Taryn thought for a moment before answering. When I was a child, I was new too. My family came from Earth to a colony where no one wanted us. I remember how it felt to be laughed at for being different. So when I saw you, I knew that look. Rila's expression softened. You know what it is to feel apart? As he said simply. She nodded slowly. Then I am glad we met. So am I, Taryn said. Ari lifted her hand slightly, as if unsure what to do. Taryn noticed and offered his hand. She hesitated, then placed her silver fingers in his. Her skin was smooth and cool, and faint light pulsed under it. In my culture, Rila said, this means gratitude. Then I accept it, Taryn said with a smile. She gave a small nod and turned down the corridor toward her quarters. Taryn watched her go until she disappeared around the bend. That evening, Taryn walked to the observation deck after work. The large windows stretched from floor to ceiling, showing endless stars. He leaned on the railing. Watching small ships leave the station like glowing fireflies, he thought about Rila's story. About her destroyed world and her people trying to start over. He wondered how many others like her were hiding in the quiet corners of the station. Afraid to be seen, maybe kindness could change that, even if only a little. When Taryn left the deck, he passed by a group of workers talking near the elevator. They were the same people who had laughed at Rila 2 days ago. One of them stopped him. Hey, Taryn, the man said. That alien you sat with? She seems all right. I didn't know they spoke our language. Taryn nodded. They do. You should talk to her sometime. The man scratched his head. Maybe I will. Taryn smiled slightly and stepped into the elevator. The doors closed behind him. Later that night, in her own small room on the outer ring, Rilla sat by the window of her quarters. She held a small silver device that played soft lights. It was a memory crystal from her home. The lights shimmered like waves. She thought of her people, quiet and careful, living in hidden sections of the station. Then she thought of Taryn, the human who had invited her to his table. Her eyes softened. She realized something new. For the first time since leaving her home, she did not feel invisible. Someone had seen her. Someone had spoken to her without fear or mockery. She looked out the window at the stars. Maybe this is where light begins again, she whispered. And for the first time in many years, Rilla fell asleep with a calm heart. The next morning began with soft light shining through the glass walls of the station. The hum of engines filled the halls, steady and calm. People walked through the corridors, some rushing to work, others chatting with friends. It looked like an ordinary day, but something small had already started to change. When Taryn entered the cafeteria that morning, he noticed fewer stares. The place was still noisy, but the whispers about aliens were less cruel. Maybe people had begun to think. Maybe they had seen what kindness looked like and started to understand. He carried his tray to his usual table near the glass wall and looked toward the door. He did not have to wait long. Rila walked in, carrying her tray carefully. This time, she did not look frightened. She even smiled slightly when she saw him. Taryn waved. And she came over to sit with him. Good morning, he said. Good morning, Taryn, she answered in her calm voice. You came early. I was hungry, he said, smiling. And maybe I wanted good company, too. Rilla looked at him with curious eyes. You speak kindly even in simple words. It makes the air feel lighter. Taryn laughed softly. That might be the nicest thing anyone has said to me today. They both began eating. Rilla had chosen something different this time, small pieces of bread and fruit. She picked them up slowly, studying each one before taking a bite. This one tastes sweet, she said. It reminds me of a fruit we had on my homeworld. It was called Laren. It grew near the water and shone in the sunlight. That sounds beautiful, Taryn said. What else did you have there? Rila's expression grew thoughtful. We had floating gardens above the ocean. The wind would carry the smell of flowers across the waves. Children used to play in the light pools near the towers. At night we watched the two suns go down together. Everything glowed silver. Her voice became quiet near the end. Taryn could tell she was remembering things she missed deeply. I wish I could have seen it, he said. You would have liked it, she replied. Your kind likes to build with stone and metal, but we built with sound and light. Our homes sang with us. When the storms came, we sang louder, and the wind danced with our voices.
Aaron.
That sounds more like art than building. It was both, Rilla said with a small smile. Our songs held our memories. Every tone was a story. She picked up a piece of fruit and held it for a moment. When the war came, the first thing we lost was our voice. We stopped singing. Silence covered our world before the fire did. Taryn did not speak for a while. The sounds of the cafeteria filled the space between them, the clatter of dishes, the hum of machines, the low voices of people talking. You could sing again, he said finally. Maybe here. At the event next week, Rilla looked unsure. Would they listen? Yes, Taryn said firmly. They should. And I will be there to make sure they do. Her lips curved in a faint smile. You have much courage for one human. Maybe, he said. Or maybe I just hate seeing good voices go unheard. Rilla tilted her head and studied him. You are not like the others, she said softly. Most humans look at me and see something strange. You look at me and see someone who can sing. Taryn met her gaze. Maybe we need more singing on this station. Rilla looked down at her plate again. Her hands were calm now, not nervous like before. The light in her eyes flickered softly as she spoke. I will think about it. When they finished their meal, Rilla helped Taryn clear the trays. Some workers nearby greeted them with polite nods. It was a small change, but it made a difference. As they left the cafeteria, Taryn noticed that Rilla walked taller now. Her steps were steady. She was no longer the lost woman who had entered the cafeteria alone that first day. Later that afternoon, Taryn returned to his maintenance work. He repaired a damaged power cable near the docking bay. While working, he overheard two other workers talking. You saw that alien woman in the cafeteria again? One asked. Yeah, the other said. She seems all right. The one with the glowing eyes? She was talking to that guy Taryn, didn't think she'd come back after the first time. Tarrant smiled quietly as he worked. People were starting to talk differently now. Curiosity had replaced mockery. That evening, Tarrant stopped by the station library, a small room filled with screens and old books from many worlds. He wanted to learn more about Rilla's people. The database said her species was called the Orion, a peaceful race known for their music and light technology. They were not fighters. When war came to their world, they had no defense strong enough to stop it. Many perished, and the survivors scattered across the galaxy. Tane closed the file and sat in silence for a while. He felt a deep respect for them. For Rilla, they had lost everything and still carried beauty in their voices. The next day, Rilla came to find him in the maintenance area. She wore a simple silver robe, her hair tied back. Her eyes seemed brighter. Taryn, she said, I spoke with my people last night. They want to come to the cultural event too. They said we should share something from our home. Maybe a song. Taryn grinned. That is wonderful news. I can help you set up if you like. You would like that, she said. Most of us do not know how to use human sound systems. I will show you, he said. Rilla smiled again. It was soft, but full of light. Thank you, Taryn. I think this event will be good for everyone. Over the next few days, Taryn helped Rilla and her people prepare. They met in one of the quiet halls near the outer ring. There were 6 Aryan, all tall with silver skin and calm eyes. They greeted him politely, at first a little shy, but soon they grew more comfortable. Taryn set up the speakers and lights while they practiced. Their voices were soft but carried a strange beauty. When they sang together, the sounds seemed to fill the room with a gentle glow. The walls shimmered faintly, as if the song touched the air itself. Tair had never heard anything like it. It made his chest feel warm and his thoughts quiet. When they finished, Rila looked at him. "What do you think?" "I think it is the most beautiful sound I have ever heard," he said honestly. The others smiled faintly. One of them, an older Aryan man, nodded and said, "You are kind to listen without judgment, human. It means much to us." "It means much to me too," Taryn replied. "You deserve to be heard." That night, Rila stayed behind after the others left. She helped him pack up the equipment. "You looked peaceful when we sang," she said. "I was Taryn," answered. "Your music makes everything else seem quiet." "It is how we remember," Rila said. "Every note carries a story. When we sing, we keep our people alive." Taryn looked at her with respect. "Then you should keep singing, Rila, as long as you can." She nodded slowly. "I will." When the day of the event finally arrived, the cafeteria had been changed into a large open hall. Flags from different worlds hung from the ceiling. Tables were filled with food, crafts, and small machines from many species. People moved from table to table, tasting food, asking questions, sharing stories. Tay stood near the stage, helping with the microphones. He saw Rilla and her people standing together, waiting for their turn. They looked calm but proud. When it was time, the lights dimmed slightly. Rilla stepped forward and looked out at the crowd. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then she began to sing. Her voice rose slowly, soft and clear. It sounded like water moving over stones. The other Aryan joined her, their tones blending perfectly. The sound spread through the hall like a wave of light. The crowd fell silent. Some people closed their eyes, listening. Others stared in wonder. The song carried no words anyone understood, but the emotion was clear. Loss, hope, and beauty. When the final note faded, no one spoke for several seconds. Then the entire hall began to clap. It was loud and full of warmth. Rila's eyes glowed brighter as she looked at Taryn. He was clapping too, smiling proudly. After the performance, people came forward to speak with the Aryan. They asked about their world, their songs, and their art. No one laughed this time. The room was filled with respect and curiosity. Taryn walked to Rila and said, "You did it." "We did it," she said softly. "You helped us find our voice again." He shook his head. "All I did was offer a seat. You did the rest." Rilla looked at him for a long moment. A seat was all I needed to stand again. That night, as the event ended, the cafeteria looked different than it ever had before. Humans and aliens sat together, eating, laughing, and sharing stories. No one sat alone. Rila looked around and whispered to Taryn, "Maybe this is what peace looks like." Taryn nodded. "Yes, and maybe it started right here, at this table." They both smiled, watching the crowd. The stars beyond the glass wall shone brighter as if listening to their song. After the cultural event, the station felt different. The air seemed lighter, and the usual crowded cafeteria had a new energy. Humans and aliens now moved side by side, sharing meals and conversation. The change was subtle, but real. People who had once whispered or laughed were now curious. Some even greeted Rila and her people politely. Tara noticed it immediately when he entered the cafeteria for his morning meal. The usual crowd of workers sat in groups, but instead of staring or pointing, many were watching the Orion with quiet interest. Some even smiled as Rila entered. She walked confidently this time, carrying a tray of food. Her silver skin shimmered under the cafeteria lights. Her blue-tinged hair moved gently with each step, and her glowing eyes scanned the room with calm assurance. When she saw Taryn, she smiled faintly and approached his usual table. "Good morning, Taryn," she said, setting her tray down. "Good morning, Rila," he replied. "You look ready for the day." "I am," she said. "We practiced some songs this morning. Some of the younger Orion want to show humans how we sing with light and sound." Taryn raised his eyebrows. "That is wonderful. I would like to see it." She smiled and picked up her spoon. First, breakfast, then music. As they ate, more people began to notice. Some of the same workers who had laughed at her before walked past, stopping to look. One of them, a tall man with a loud voice, hesitated before speaking. "That singing yesterday? It was beautiful," he said softly. Rilla looked up, startled. "You liked it?" "Yes," the man said. "I did not understand the words, but it felt real. It felt like you meant something." Rilla's lips curved in a small smile. "Thank you." Even the cafeteria cook came over, curious. "I never thought your people could sing like that," he said. "It was different. Good different." Rilla bowed slightly. "It is how we remember our home." Taryn noticed how small gestures like this were changing opinions. People who had once mocked her were now starting to respect her. Later that afternoon, Rilla and Taryn walked down a long corridor toward the outer ring, where most of the Orion lived. The station lights reflected off the smooth metal walls. Rilla walked with her hands folded, her posture steady and calm. "Your people are brave," Taryn said. "It is not easy to share your culture with others who do not understand it." Rilla looked at him with soft eyes. "Brave is when fear does not stop you. I was afraid before, but I realized we have songs and stories worth sharing. We must show them. And people are beginning to see that." They arrived at the Orion quarters, a quiet section of the outer ring with soft light panels and low hums of machinery. Inside, several Orion were gathered. Some practiced singing, their voices blending with faint pulses of light. Younger Orion watched curiously as Rilla and Taryn entered. "Today," Rilla said, "we will show humans a new song, one that speaks of hope." Taryn helped set up the small speaker and light panel. He watched as the Orion prepared, amazed by the way they could create patterns of color and sound together. When the music began, the light shimmered across the walls like dancing waves. The song was soft at first, then grew stronger, flowing through the room. Tane felt the warmth of it in his chest. It was not just beautiful, it carried meaning. Every note, every flicker of light spoke of survival, courage, and hope. After the song ended, a human visitor from the upper decks clapped his hands. "That was incredible," he said. "I never knew music could feel like this." Rilla smiled softly. "We want everyone to understand. Our songs tell stories when words cannot." One of the younger Orion approached Taryn. "They listened to us," she said. "Humans listened. It is different now," yes, Taryn said, "and it will be better every day." By the evening, word of the performance had spread throughout the station. More humans came to visit the Orion quarters, asking questions, learning about their culture, and even offering to try the songs themselves. Taryn watched, proud of how far Rilla and her people had come. The next morning in the cafeteria, Rilla entered with several Orion children. They carried trays of small pastries they had baked with guidance from the humans. Some of the children were shy, but Rilla encouraged them gently. Taryn waved and said, "Good morning to all of you." "Good morning," the children said in unison, their small voices bright and clear. As they ate together, something remarkable happened. The tables that had once been divided between humans and aliens began to blend. Humans invited Arion to sit with them. Some of the same people who had mocked Rilla before now asked her about her home and her songs. The cafeteria felt warmer. Laughter returned, but it was different now. It was full of curiosity and joy instead of cruelty. One of the older humans approached Taryn. "I saw your friend yesterday," said. "She is amazing." "I never thought I would say that about an alien." Taryn smiled quietly. "She is more than amazing. She is kind, brave, and full of stories worth hearing." The man nodded slowly. "I think I understand now. We should listen more, not mock." Rilla noticed the change too. She looked at Taryn and said softly, "The mockers are quiet today." "Yes," Taryn said, "and I think they are beginning to see the truth." By midweek, the cafeteria had become a place of learning. Rilla and Taryn continued to eat together every day, but now other humans began joining them. Some brought questions, others brought small gifts or food from their own planets. Rilla's eyes glowed softly as she taught them small Orion songs, their strange syllables blending with human voices. One day a group of teenagers approached. They were nervous, but curious. Can you show us how to sing? One asked. Arla nodded. Of course. Taryn helped guide them through the light panels. Soon, the teens were singing with small flashes of color appearing on the walls. Their laughter was bright and full of wonder. Look at that, one of the adults said quietly. They are learning something new. It is beautiful. Rilla smiled at Taryn. You were right, she said softly. Kindness changes hearts, one person at a time. It does, Taryn said, and it grows faster when it is shared. The day ended with Rilla and the Orion children returning to their quarters. Taryn walked with her part of the way. Do you ever miss your home? He asked. Rilla's glow dimmed slightly. Every day, but I have learned something important. Even if our homes are gone, we can create new ones. We can build light and joy wherever we are. Taryn nodded. And now this station feels a little more like home for you. Yes, she said softly. And for the humans, too. In the following weeks, the cafeteria became a model for the station. Humans and aliens shared meals, stories, and work. New friendships formed. People began learning from each other instead of fearing each other. Even the most stubborn mockers began to change. Taryn watched Rilla one afternoon as she guided a small group of humans through an Aryan song. She laughed when one of them missed a note, her voice gentle and patient. The light from her skin shimmered softly as she spoke. It struck him then how much courage it took for her to step forward. To share her songs and stories despite the fear and mockery she had faced. You are amazing, he said quietly. Rilla looked at him, her eyes glowing softly. It is not me alone. It is all of us. Every time someone listens, every time someone learns, the change grows. Taryn smiled. Then we should keep growing, as Rilla said. Together. As night fell on the station, the cafeteria lights dimmed. Humans and aliens finished their meals, laughing and sharing small stories before returning to their quarters. Rilla looked out the window at the stars. She thought of her lost world, of the oceans and light towers, and of the voices of her people long ago. Then she looked at Taryn, who stood beside her quietly. Maybe one day, she whispered, we can sing to the stars again. I will be here to listen, Taryn said softly. The stars outside seemed to shine brighter, as if answering her. For the first time in a long while, Rilla felt hope. Not just for herself, but for all who had been laughed at or ignored. Here, in this station, kindness had begun to spread, and it would not stop. The morning sun reflected off the metal walls of the station, casting long streaks of light across the corridors. Today was special. The cafeteria had been prepared for an event unlike any before. Flags from dozens of worlds hung from the ceiling. Tables were arranged in circles, with chairs for humans and aliens alike. The aroma of food from every planet mingled in the air, filling the room with warmth and anticipation. Taryn walked through the hall, carrying a tray. He felt excited but also proud. Months of small gestures had led to this moment. The station had changed. People no longer whispered with fear or laughed at those who were different. Curiosity and respect had taken root. At the entrance, Rilla and her people stood together, looking around. Their silver skin glimmered under the lights. Their eyes reflected blue light, calm and glowing. The younger Orion adjusted the small instruments they had brought. The older ones arranged the floating light panels to accompany the songs they would perform. Rilla saw Taryn and waved. Thank you for being here, she said softly. I would not miss it. Taryn replied with a smile. The first humans began to arrive. Some carried trays with their own dishes, eager to share food from their home worlds. Others brought small gifts or tokens, curious about the aliens' culture. The tables quickly began to fill. Humans and aliens mingled, exchanging stories and learning from one another. Laughter was present, but it was genuine this time. It was laughter built on joy, not mockery. The event began with a small speech by one of the station commanders. Today, he said, we celebrate unity. We celebrate kindness. We celebrate the many worlds that live together on this station. Let this day be a reminder that food, song, and friendship can bridge any distance, any difference. Taryn looked at Rilla as he listened. Her glowing eyes reflected pride and hope. After the speech, the Orion began their performance. Rila stepped forward first. Her voice started soft, like water flowing over stones, and then the others joined in. Their song was different this time, not only for the sound, but for the lights. Soft beams of silver and blue shimmered across the hall, moving with the rhythm of the music. It was not just a song. It was a story of hope, of survival, and of new beginnings. The crowd watched in silence, mesmerized. Humans and aliens alike felt the emotion behind the notes. When the song ended, the room erupted in applause. Some of the humans even stood, cheering for the alien performers. Rilla looked at Taryn and whispered, "They listened." "Yes," Taryn said, "and they will remember." Next, the humans who had prepared dishes from their planets brought them forward. The Orion tried each one, tasting the flavors curiously and commenting softly. The younger humans watched eagerly, learning from Rila and her people how to blend spices and ingredients in new ways. It was not only a meal. It was a lesson in understanding and respect. People began to sit together at the same tables. Humans invited Orion to share meals. Aliens asked questions about human customs and food. The cafeteria became alive with conversations that crossed the boundaries of worlds.tar. Noticed one table in particular. The same group of humans who had laughed at Rila when she first came in were now sitting with her younger Aryan students. They were learning to play small instruments following the rhythms of alien songs. Taryn felt a warm sense of pride. This was more than he had imagined. The mockers had changed. They were no longer afraid of what they did not understand. Rilla walked among the tables, answering questions and encouraging both humans and aliens to participate. Her confidence was radiant. She spoke softly, but with authority, and everyone listened. The children followed her example, sharing stories of their homes and learning new things from the humans. At one corner of the cafeteria, Taryn joined a table where a young human boy was trying to play a small Orion flute. The boy looked frustrated. "Here," Taryn said gently. "Try holding it like this." The boy adjusted his grip, and a soft note emerged. Rilla, who had been walking by, heard it and smiled. "See?" she said. "It only takes patience and listening." The boy grinned, encouraged. "It sounds amazing." "Yes," Rilla said softly. "Music belongs to everyone who is willing to try." Time passed quickly. The event continued with food, music, and laughter. Stories of lost worlds and new beginnings were shared. Humans told of their struggles in the colonies, while Orion spoke of the light and songs of their old home. No one was laughed at. No one was mocked. The cafeteria had become a place of acceptance, understanding, and joy. By the afternoon, a quiet moment came. Rila and Taryn stood together near the stage, watching the interactions. Children from different worlds played together, laughing and chasing each other. Adults shared knowledge, teaching one another about their crafts, tools, and traditions. "You did this," Taryn said softly. "All of this started with one seat at a table." Rilla looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting gratitude. "It did not start with me," she said. "It started with you, Taryn. You saw me. You offered me a place. That small act gave me the courage to step forward. Courage spreads quickly when it is shared." Taryn smiled. "I only offered a seat. You filled it with light and song." Rilla looked toward the crowd. "The world is full of people who can do the same," she said. "All it takes is seeing one another. All it takes is kindness." The day continued into evening. Soft lights from the Orion panels mingled with the station's normal lighting, creating a warm glow. Food trays were empty, conversations were full of laughter, and even the shyest aliens were now joining groups with humans. The entire cafeteria had transformed. It was no longer a place of division or fear. It was a place where anyone could belong. When the last guests left, Rilla and Taryn helped clean the hall. The Orion children collected the floating lights and instruments, smiling and chatting quietly among themselves. Taryn picked up the last empty tray and looked around the empty hall. "It feels different now," he said. "Yes," Rilla said. "It feels like home." Taryn looked at her. "Do you think this change will last?" Rilla's glow softened. "It will. Once people see that kindness brings understanding, they cannot unsee it. One day, this will be the way of the station. Humans and aliens will live together as they should. Ada nodded. Then let us make sure it continues. Rila smiled at him, a soft but radiant glow in her eyes. We will together. The next morning, a new sign hung in the cafeteria. It was simple, written in several languages, including symbols from Orion culture. A table for all worlds. Rilla and Taryn stood together and watched as people read the sign. Humans and aliens alike paused to see it. Some smiled. Others nodded in agreement. The message was clear. The cafeteria was no longer just a place to eat. It was a place of unity. As the day went on, tables were filled again, but this time the divisions were gone. Humans invited Orion to sit with them. Aliens invited humans. Conversations flowed naturally, filled with curiosity, learning, laughter. Rilla moved among the tables, sharing her songs and stories. She noticed a human girl teaching an Orion child a game from her planet. She saw a group of humans tasting alien pastries and smiling with delight. She saw people talking, listening, and learning. Her heart was full. Tern joined her at one of the larger tables. You have changed this place, he said softly. No, Rilla said gently. We all have. Each person who listened, each person who shared, made this change. I only helped them see it. Taryn smiled. And it all started with one seat. Rilla nodded. Yes, one seat. One act of kindness can create worlds. They both looked out the window at the stars. Ships moved across the galaxy, lights flickering like fireflies. Somewhere among them were lost worlds, destroyed planets, and scattered survivors. But here on this station, a new beginning had grown. Rilla turned to Taryn. Thank you for seeing me. You do not need to thank me, he said. We all need someone to sit with sometimes. She smiled softly, her eyes glowing faintly. Then let us keep making this a place where no one is left alone. Tara nodded. Yes, together. As the day ended, humans and aliens continued to share meals and stories. Laughter filled the hall. Songs echoed softly from the Orion instruments. The cafeteria had become more than a place to eat. It had become a home for everyone. Rilla looked around one last time before returning to the Orion quarters. Her heart was light. She thought of her lost world, of the oceans and light towers, of the songs her people had once sung. And she knew that even though those worlds were gone, here, in this station, a new home had been created, and that home belonged to all worlds.